You're listening to the Court of Public Opinion. We're going to discuss the Seth Rich case from a different angle. We're going to look at what's going on within the investigation that is creating a lot of controversy. And so hopefully we'll get to the information. This is Rod Wheeler, who was interviewed by Lou Dobbs. Lou Dobbs is a veteran, seasoned journalist who is on Fox Business, as well as Rod Wheeler, who's a veteran, seasoned detective, homicide detective, formerly for Washington, D.C., Metro Police. Very important. So you can see by their body language, they are certain that there's something odd about this story, which has made the headline news, and that this specifically addresses some concerns that everyone should pay close attention to. Now, there was information that was released to Fox News, and it was from a FBI investigator, forensic FBI investigator, and that same information was very similar to a comment made by a Washington, D.C. Metro Police detective. Now, this statement is from the spokesperson for the Rich family. Now, you read that. Even if tomorrow an email was found, it is not enough to bar of evidence to prove any interactions, as emails can be altered, and we've seen that those interested in pushing conspiracies will stop at nothing to do so. Okay, well, emails are permissible in court if you can verify them and they're time-stamped. So I don't know if he's representing the family on this, because the spokesperson is supposed to represent the family. We're just discussing the facts of the case. Those emails, if time-stamped and verified through forensic inspection, investigation, they can verify those emails, which that is what the FBI investigators do. That is what forensics FBI investigators are trained to prove whether this is verified. That information would not have been verified by the FBI investigator, turned over to Fox News. You're talking about the credibility of the people in it as well. This is why it's exploit the topic, not the people. Let's exploit this topic. I don't know anyone who's going to be passing around emails to investigators if they can't prove that there's evidence to support that this is admissible in court. They wouldn't be turning it over, and there wouldn't be this kind of internal discussion occurring between career homicide detectives. It's either the career homicide detectives are correct and the journalists and investigators that are involved in this, or somebody else is lying. Because somewhere along the line, the actual evidence is missing. That's an incredible thing when you think something deeply internal, something internal is going on that's deep within police departments. If you can't find that evidence, which is logged as evidence, there is a special process in how they process evidence. Then something's happened to the evidence that would authorize or verify. They can go to court without evidence, believe it or not. They can go on circumstantial evidence that would prove that there's something been tampered, and there is what they call, what's the word for this? There's a couple different definitions for tampering with evidence. They can go to court without evidence. If the evidence is not logged in and it's somewhere disappeared, okay? Now, does that put holes in it? No, but it makes this investigation into Seth Rich's death very interesting. That they could silence journalism, or they could silence career detectives this way. That's incredible. That's why I think this case is worth talking about, because there's something bigger here, and it's putting people's careers in jeopardy, in danger, all based on, circumstances. That email, again, or that quote made by the spokesperson, concerns me. Because you're talking about career seasoned detectives, either the seasoned detectives in homicide officers who work on cases on a regular basis are wrong, or we're just going to go based on circumstances, because you cannot go into court and try to disprove this without going through that process, without going through making sure that this is legit stuff. I mean, we're either going to go down the road of discussing conspiracy theories, which whether or not this is a term for it or not, that is not going to be enough to disprove evidence. You can go into court despite opinions, despite those things. And people throw that word conspiracy theory around too lightly. We take very serious that if that evidence is logged in, it's the difference of winning a case. We get that, but you can still see that this case can go forward without evidence. They've prosecuted cases without dead bodies. You have a body, and somehow the discrepancy in this story makes this case even more interesting. So whoever keeps trying to cover it up, whoever the people they actually are bringing more attention to it. If I was thinking along the lines of an investigator, or in the case of the persons committing this crime, the more they try to cover it up, the more obvious the more attention it's bringing to the case. Oddly enough, every person that starts to cover their tracks or cover up, they make it more obvious, believe it or not. There was something I was told a long time ago, and I heard this story. Maybe, not quite sure where I heard the exact story from, but there's a story about the detectives, that detectives have had experiences when somebody has died and they take on these cases. There's experiences through it that make this case interesting. So it's usually all these things start to add up, odd situation. Those things are not just based on circumstances and coincidence. That's the part of the story. That's part of the detective work. That's the unraveling the story, which that's what they're trying to do. Okay, so there's an internal dialogue that occurred between the detective, which is on the case, and then the FBI forensic investigator, Rod Wheeler now, who is paid by a third party, and all these other reporters that are reporting on it, including Sean Hannity, now Lou Dobbs, and several other reporters. And what I find interesting, it's either the mayor statement is incorrect or wrong or lying, or the detectives that are putting their careers on the line, their integrity on the line, are wrong. So here's a statement from the spokesperson. Even if tomorrow an email was found, it is not high enough bar of evidence to prove any interactions, as emails can be altered. And we've seen those interested in pushing conspiracies that will stop at nothing to do so. Brad Bauman of the Rich family he's the spokesperson. Okay. Even if tomorrow an email was found and it is not high enough evidence. Well, the whole point to why they're discussing emails is that if you're a spokesperson for Seth and his family, the whole point to this is, why did Seth send these emails then? And if they've been altered, well, then we need to see that in court. We need to see if it was altered and if these are something that can be proven in court. This is why it has to go to court. There's plenty of evidence that would support that these are verified. Homicide detectives are putting their reputation on the line. Doesn't it sound like something that is common knowledge to anybody that has ever dealt with evidence? They know they has to be logged, and it's missing evidence now. There's a lot wrong with this, and I think it's drawn way more attention to this case now than before. I don't know if anyone that I know personally that would put their careers, their family, risk their reputation on just information that couldn't be verified. So it's either the spokesperson and the mayor and some people that have disproved or discounted, or somehow this information just sounds wishy-washy, or either it's the homicide detectives that are putting their career and their reputation, including Rod Wheeler, including Lou Dobbs, including Sean Hannity, and all these other reputable people are putting their careers on the line for information. It could be possibly conspiracy. This doesn't sound like rational thinking on our part. We can't go based on, quote, somebody's definition of conspiracy theory. That's why we say exploit the topic, not the people, because it's interesting that we keep hearing the word conspiracy, or they can't verify that. That was the whole point. This information needs to be logged, and why would it be sent over to reporters to begin with? I think this case is interesting for a couple reasons. It's going to come down to this. Either that information, whether it be emails, whether it be computers, any evidence, if they are passing around evidence that is not permissible in court, then we need to know what that is and why it isn't not permissible, and where is this evidence. I think that is why these cases do go to court, because they want to know where this evidence ended up. And then you get into the deeper things like conspiracy to commit a murder, or conspiracy to cover up. That's when these cases take on a whole new different definition and a whole different light. And I think that more about a cover-up is becoming more obvious to why people are interested in this case. What I find very interesting about this case, which I'm just going to make an opinion of my own personally. They would have to ask for a change of venue. They'd have to ask for jury selection, and the kind of jury selection that there would be no tampering of the jury selection or the evidence. This would have to be one of the most, I'd say, carefully vetted cases because of the location and because of the facts to the case. Like, the fact is that Bloomingdale in Washington, D.C. hasn't seen a murder since 2010. Makes another strange connection, because this is not a place where murders occur. So I find that interesting that a murder occurred in broad daylight, and somehow Seth Rich was alive, but then he ended up dead. And after talking to EMT and paramedics, and somebody's not saying anything, of course. That's the whole point of the investigation. Thank you for listening to this brief. The brief at the Court of Public Opinion is a part of the Amateur Radio Network.